Hello, hello. What's up? What's up? It is a new day, it is a new week, and it's time to get social. My name is Kayvana, and welcome to the Introverts Social Hour. Hello, hello. Welcome to the Introvert Social Hour. We are talking about something real. We're talking about some deeper stuff today. We're talking about living in your 20s, the expectation versus the reality. And I feel like this is something that a lot of people can relate to, especially if you're in your 20s now or if you were in your 20s at a certain point, and kind of like what you learned, what you're learning, etc. So I'm really happy to bring on my friends Sabrina and Nicole. Y'all know Sabrina and Nicole. They have been on many a times. And so I'm just really excited to talk about this. I was just telling them like we talk about life, like we see each other basically like every week, but we haven't had such an in-depth conversation like this in a minute at least. So it'll be fun just to kind of catch up and see where we are, and we're getting up there. We're aging, you know? So you're a part of it, Sabrina. But welcome, Sabrina, in the
What an intro.
right, really
This
true.
is a visual media, so you could have seen my face.
No, you're right. Because she was looking at me like,
Yeah. Is this
um,
all just because your birthday's coming up?
Yeah, it's like just because you're almost 27.
whoa, 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 whoa. Yes, and you know what? We're gonna talk about this. I'm embracing it. Let's talk about that. Oh, but yeah, no, actually, that's actually what I wanted to talk about. I was like, let's talk about that because I feel like now I can't say I'm mid 20s anymore. There's gonna be a point I'm gonna be late 20s. So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, girl, what did you learn now that you're in your late 20s and you're like 3 years away from 30? You know what I'm saying? So uh, I think that's important to talk about. But then also, like Nicole, you not that far behind, and then Sabrina, you're not that far behind. So we're all
No.
gonna be there together soon
Yeah.
for just a few months. um, but yeah, let's go into it. So I wanted to talk about the first question, what we thought our 20s would look like, and so I always go back to like the dream of when we're kids and what we think we're gonna have or see. I will say our 20s look so different. We have lived through so many things in our 20s that could not have been predicted. Um, and it was rough. It was rougher than 10 years ago or so, I would definitely say, being in your 20s. But what let's talk about what were your childhood or teen assumptions about adulthood? Whether it was like careers, relationships, timing of things is also something. But yeah, what were y'all thinking about?
I can go first because I actually realized that I kind of skipped over the 20s when I was a kid and I was trying to plan things. There were like certain checklists that I had in mind, and it was very much of like after high school it's college, and then you complete college, and then it's teaching credential, and then it's teaching, and then you're an adult. A lot of what I had planned, like the only thing that I was thinking back that was genuinely 20s was little tiny me thought, oh, maybe engaged by like 25, 26, married by like 27, 28. That's the only like set like age thing I had because kids was always 30, like around 30 is where kids would be because that was like the next stage of adulthood. And then I realized most of my stuff was that stage of adulthood of like what having kids would look like, what having like all of that. But the 20s was just nothing I'd spent too much time on other than just like, mm, I'll get married in my 20s at some point. Cool. And then with college, that changed, like going from 18 to 20, it changed. Thought it would involve like just traveling, things like that. Like a location change was a big one at first. I thought I would be in the Bay Area when I was little. That was the goal. Bay Area, because that's where my family lived. I thought it was beautiful. It was
Mm,
hot. And then in college, it was like, oh, I fell in love with San Diego. I'm staying here.
so
Um,
pretty.
but as a kid, I didn't really have any plans. I definitely would have never imagined what happened. Like any of this, like nothing, nah. But I didn't have too many ideas for it other than just like, oh, that's what you are when you're an adult.
Okay.
Most of my adulthood ideas came with later years, which I thought was interesting. I never really realized it until
Mm.
you sent us the little titles of the sections.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious about that then. When you say later years, were you thinking about adulthood as you had already entered technically?
Yeah, so that's where other things kind of happened where I had this
Mm,
idea of staying in San Diego, teaching here,
yeah.
going out,
Mm,
growing like cemented. I didn't know that all of us would go a bunch of different places, so I also didn't imagine. I imagined like getting maybe like having like a Wednesday night like date night with some friends or like being
yeah.
this and that. So a much more centralized, just like a big girl version of what we had in college is what I would have liked. Um, I imagined it wasn't going to be like smooth sailing, but the idea of living with friends for a few years, renting with friends for a few years, or for like forever, uh, by the time college ended, that was where more realistic ideas were setting in, where I was very much like, this is going to be difficult. There's going to be a lot of money based questions that I already knew, but it wasn't like in those little tiny dreams or those tiny ideas that like baby me had, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it
Mhm.
does. Things shift. No, that makes sense. What about you, Nicole?
Um, I feel like there were some things that I think are pretty similar with Sabrina's, where I didn't have like super concrete, realistic like imaginings of what mid 20s, late 20s experience would be. I feel like growing up was very much like, what is the next thing?
Hmm.
And so it was like, oh, I in as a teenager, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to college, and what sort of I didn't even really think past that part of like, what's the grander plan beyond that. There were times I was like, there were a lot of like interesting things that I was like, oh, that I eventually one day I will be living in New York. That was like an assumption I had, that it was like something that was upcoming. I applied to colleges in New York, and then that was where kind of reality was of like, ooh, there's some significant monetary differences between doing that, taking that leap, and
Yeah.
staying in state, which is what I ended up doing. So definitely like had that expectation reality difference as well. And then I think in college I was like, well, I'm just trying to make like do this the best that I can and try and set myself up for what's next. And kind of forgot that like that what's next. I mean, there were a lot of things that kind of popped up that were like, oh no, that was so unexpected. And
Mm.
so it was hard to kind of think around some of those things at first. So now it's kind of like, well, what can we what does the future look like now with like this more realistic view of it?
Yeah. Ooh, yes,
Mhm.
realistic. Ooh, I'm gonna answer. It made me think of something else. I'll connect it back. I'm gonna
Mhm.
answer my portion though. So for me, I think I get what you're saying in regards to like not necessarily thinking of like 20s. I think I kind of wrapped up adulthood in general. Like the 20s
Mhm.
was the launch. So
Mhm.
I knew I was gonna go to college. I was like, bet, what they say. You go to college, you get any degree, you go out of college, you got a job waiting for you. You're Gucci. Like that
Mhm.
was not the case. We also graduated during 2020, so like there were
Mhm.
not many jobs to really reach out for. I did hit a Uno reverse that last year and decided to pursue dance, but that happened before COVID hit. So then I was like,
Mhm.
okay, well, I don't know. There's not really much dancing happening other than on TikTok, which I should have been doing, but it's okay. It's better late than never.
Mhm.
Um, and basically that was the expectation. I just thought like, okay, I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna get a job, and I'm gonna be popping. I'm gonna have koyoing, and that was not the case.
Yeah.
It took me a minute to actually get like my first full time job. I had been having other jobs, but my first full time job, it took me a minute to get there, and then on top of that, it was not paying that well.
Mhm.
My first full time job was a teacher, so that was not a you know it paid for what it needed to, but it was not a was it sufficient, long standing? There's a word I'm looking for, but uh yeah. And then now that I have my like second, I'm like, okay, this is cute, but like, there's still a world where we kind of ended up in the case scenario where everything costs way more. So
Mhm.
nothing is reflective of, the you could be making what would have been really solid 10 years ago, But now that is not the same case scenario. And while all of the stuff got more expensive, we end up becoming adults in a time where the payout did not reflect that, you know? So that was the one struggle. I knew I was gonna be out of the Bay. So Uno reverse there. I was like, I am getting out of the Bay Area. I don't know where I'm gonna go. I think technically I thought I was gonna be in LA. And then
Mhm.
once I went to school in San Diego, I realized it was, and then saw a bit of LA. I was like, nah, like I'm gonna probably come back to San Diego if I come back to California. Um, I thought New York would be something down the line in the future. I didn't think, even when I was already an adult, I didn't think it would happen until like later 20s. So moving, what was I, like 20, 23? Moving when I was 23. I think I was 23, question mark?
Yeah,
Mm.
I think so.
I think so.
Wow.
So moving at that time was like a big deal. I was like, whoa, I kind of jumped my timeline a bit there. So I will say that's cool because I was literally, I think I graduated college and I was like, maybe in 5 years, maybe LA will be first or something like that. And so I would say that's the plus. I thought I would possibly have more ownership of stuff, maybe not renting as much, but houses cost and things like that. Relationship wise, I thought there'd be something more going on there. Crickets, and that's okay. I think I've discovered that it's best to develop myself and figure those
Mhm.
things out. And I really do think that was the best option for me because I feel like that's something of people could go out there and find it. I don't want to find it. I'd rather focus on me right now, and I think that's like the best option. But yeah, that's where I'm at. The question I was thinking of though was, did any like, as growing up, everything's all sunshine and rainbows when we're watching TV or experiencing movies and things like that. Did any like TV shows or even movies or things like that kind of influence any expectations of what you thought it would be?
I definitely think timeline was very influenced by
Mhm,
movies because it seemed like a lot of the rom coms, the sort of like would always show that like you know young-ish person, usually in the
Mhm.
early part of their career, but
mhm,
like figured out enough, like established enough in their career that they have like some sort of trajectory in front of them,
mhm,
which I feel like people with the circumstances that we kind of came into the workforce with, that's a lot harder to find these days. So it's like, especially on the like career path level, it was very much like, oh, by this time you'll already be at this level working your way up. Whereas I feel like it was even hard to find good, stable employment that was not going to drive you crazy and you'd be able to afford stuff. So,
Yeah. I feel like I think the cost of things and the ability to own or to live in certain situations, we've talked about it so much because we watch so many rom-coms together, but that is what I grew up on. That is a foundation of so much. And these people are out here with these incredible apartments or
mhm.
houses, and they're single or they have like one, maybe two roommates, and they all have their own bathroom, which first
Yeah.
of all, insane, crazy, does not happen.
Yeah.
They have like this super nice place. Maybe it's in a little bit of a rundown like area, but they make it so cute with all their things. And they have like they work at like a paper, a very small paper, not even
mhm.
like one of the big names, or they're like an intern at one of the big names, and that's just like not how it goes. So I think that's a big thing that was just like very quickly. As soon as I heard people talking about rent in college, I went, okay, cool. So that's not like mm-mm. I didn't think it was because obviously it's make believe, it's made up and things like that. But that was one where I was just like, it really is. You need a lot of people to get a place like that. You need money to get a place like that, and you need connections to get a
Mhm,
job that will get you into that
mhm,
even like atmosphere, that environment where that can become a possibility. And then of course, like again, going back to like the romance of it all, relationships, the idea of dating, growing up with things from the 90s and the 2000s, it was incredibly different. Like I remember the first time I saw any kind of like app online dating thing introduced in a movie, and like that was our environment. That is what we were. I have a cousin who will constantly tell me, she goes, I don't know if I could date. with what you have as a situation now. And she's only 11 years older than me. It's not like it's enough of a difference, but you think not really.
Mhm.
But like those are some of the bigger ones um, that I'm just like, especially the apartment stuff, how
Yeah.
much it costs to live.
And it's
Oof.
always like in New York and they have this giant gorgeous apartment.
Right, and it's like, "Okay, and then where do you work again?" "Oh,
Yeah.
okay." So,
A
like
bookstore that you also own. Are you for
right, and
real?
you can afford this? Interesting. No,
Oh.
seriously. Especially now that I live out here, I'm like it was so funny, people talked about this when the Materialist came out with, like, Dakota and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Like, you see her apartment and, I think she had said in the movie, like, she makes, like, 60K or something like that, and they're like,
Yeah, it's between 60 to 80. She makes under
"Y
100K.
yes." That's all you have to say right there, and I was like, "And where does she and how okay." Alright. So it's still a thing now, but no, I definitely get that. I'm still dreaming for that, like, high-rise apartment in the sky. I think that'd be cool, but it's hard. Those things are expensive.
Yeah.
Things are very expensive. Um, let's go into okay, so how is it going? We kinda know where we all are, but we're kinda letting the peeps catch up with this. Um, I'll hone in on one specific topic for a second because we haven't really dived in yet, but, like, navigating, like, identity, purpose, comparison culture, that's a big one, especially now because I feel like I see so many people in different parts of their lives that I'm like, "What? You're married? What? You're married and you have 2 kids? Didn't I just see you 5 years ago in college?" Like, like, I think that's the wild part now. I'm like, "Oh, I'm like an adult," because, like, there's people my age who I knew or
Mhm.
know who, like, do adult things. Like, that's actually wild to me. So, I'm curious of what that has looked like as you're navigating this journey, with how it's going versus, like, when what you expected it to be. I know it's a big one.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I can I can go first. I'm going to touch on the thing you said about like stages of life first,
Mhm.
because I come from a very small town, and so we kind of operate at a different pace than most people. It's not like weird for you to have 3 or 4 friends who are married before they're graduated from college, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I have had a wedding to go to every single year since 2019, excluding the pandemic. There were none in
Yeah.
2020, but that's because we were trying to get by, trying to survive. But
Mhm.
yeah, my best friend got married in 2019 when we were 20. Right before we turned 20, actually, we were still 19. Um, was a bridesmaid in that one. And then I had a friend, had a like high school friend, 21, 22, 23. And then I had college friend 24, college friend 25.
Mhm.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see if we're going to get one for next year.
I'll make sure. No,
Yeah, it's all on you, Kivana.
it's all on me. I gotta find somebody. Uh,
So that part is like, that doesn't seem as weird for me. I still have moments where I'm just like, I'll be on Instagram and I'll open something up and I'll send a quick message to like a friend or to my sister and be like, oh my God, this person's engaged. Especially as like the younger group of people that I know from back home are doing that. And for me, they're babies. So even though they're the same age as like some of my friends, I'm like, no, you're a child. What are you doing? But no babies from people that I am close to yet. I have a lot of people from high school who have had babies for years now.
yeah.
Um, so there's not a lot of comparison in that point. I feel like it's just like normal for me. But like, I definitely do think that I expected myself to be somewhere along those lines. I did expect myself to have at least something, someone, some sort of anything. And so that's been a lot of me figuring out kind of what you said, Kayvana. I was like, I gotta figure myself out first because that's where I'm at. And so that has helped me kind of figure out, okay, these things aren't happening, but that doesn't mean that it's not, that doesn't mean that it's bad necessarily.
Yeah.
Um, for me, a big part of the 20s has been consumed by my job, by my career, which I had an idea of prior, but I didn't understand to the extent that it would consume my life. And so, like, that has been very interesting because I'm so grateful. I had a job right out of like grad school, right out of my teaching program. Like, I had a job lined up,
Mhm.
wonderful job. I'm a teacher, and teachers are criminally underpaid, and I am back home, so I get probably some of the best paid teachers do in this country.
Yeah.
Um, I balance it with being back home in a place that I do not love or even enjoy, but it's something where it's like it's good for my career. But now I've experienced the idea of like, when you get one of those life goals, what happens then? Because I've talked to you guys about it. My first like 6 months of teaching, I had breakdowns, and I don't get breakdowns like that because I was like, do I love this? Because I kind of hate it. I was like, I kind of can't do this. And this is all I've ever wanted to do. What do I do? And then now I'm just kind of like, can I do this for another, what? This is going to be my fifth year. So another 26 years to get to 30 years of service and to be able to retire. And I'm like, I feel like I've already given half of who I am in 4 years, and just enough time to see one group of kids go by. And I don't work all year long. I don't get paid for all year long either because people think we do. I do not. I only get paid for like 185 to 190 days of the year.
Thank you for
But
the emphasis. Yeah,
yeah,
let the people know.
Yeah.
That's
yeah, like I don't. I'm currently not doing anything. I got like 3 more weeks of freedom left in the summer, but it's this idea of like, I have what I wanted, but it's so consuming. And so it's something where I was like, I didn't expect that. And that's something that's kind of just like, I think that's a lot of what I've discovered adulthood is a lot of like logical decisions versus decisions that make your soul happy.
Mhm.
And sometimes they're there, they do line up, but they don't seem to line up all the time. And it's kind of just like tiring. But at
Yeah.
the same time, it's again like, I'm very grateful. I understand that I am very lucky to do something I love,
Mhm.
to do something that I planned on for forever, and to not have had a little bit of time in between where I was like, oh my God, what do I do? But it's a different kind of like struggle, a different kind of like realization of like, oh man, even though I do love this, this isn't something that I'm positive can make me happy for forever. And what do you do with that? So yeah,
no, that makes sense. That's a deep one.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
No.
Intense.
Yeah. No, side note, like I know I didn't like teaching.
Mhm.
Like but like more so because I realized also I had a way different experience as you know, but
Mhm.
so the
Oh
audience
yeah.
knows like
Oh yeah.
a lot more of a toxic experience. Like and I know a lot of people can relate because occasionally a random like viral TikTok pops up talking about where I worked. So, you know, when 20,000 people like a comment, like a video, you know, we're all on the same page there.
Mhm.
But I think I hated it because I didn't like how it made me feel. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't the kids, you know. I mean, my first year was that first half a year was the kids, but like it wasn't necessarily that. It was the fact that I couldn't separate work from home, and I was like,
Mm.
I can't. I was like, I don't want my work to always be with me at every second, every day. I was working after I got home from a day where I was already there for 10 hours. I was working on the weekends, making sure I had things done, grading, et cetera, et cetera. Even when I was doing dance teaching and it wasn't the kids and it was the adults that were the problem, then it was just like, okay, well, I got to think about the next dance concert or next dance choreography, things like that. And it was no longer, it became draining and no longer fun for me to be a dancer because the whole dance teaching thing became like kind of like soul sucking in a way. And I've talked about this to some other people I know. Is like I kind of like ended up with like dancers block, like choreographer block, things like that, just because it was like this isn't. This is I lost the joy of things because I realized how much of my personal life and joy was kind of being taken away from that experience. And I feel like that can happen quite frankly at any job because like even my current job, it's like, okay, this is nice, you know, but I know for a fact it's like I'm not about to be working in tech
Mhm.
forever. Like that's
Mhm.
when
Yeah.
when was that ever the case scenario where I became a tech girl for the rest of my life? That was never a thing. But I've learned to be like, it's good for the now. And like this was
Mhm.
something that I also asked for when I was a teacher. I asked for change. I asked for a change of pace. And it is exactly that.
Yeah. I really feel that because I have had a similar kind of experience where like what I was necessarily aiming for at one point where I ended up was somewhere unexpected. Um, but it was that like changing priority of like um, good for now. I think I was really at first really trying to go for like the expectation version of like what's a career that's like I can the dream job, the what you stick with for your life, what you're defined by as a career, versus like that doesn't really like get me. That's not going to get me what I am looking for in a career, which is something that won't make me crazy. Like it's different because there were plenty of jobs that I had that weren't that dream job that just because of who I am as a person, I was still like working as hard as I could to, you know, do like just put my best effort forward. And I wasn't seeing any of the reward for it. And I had to kind of take a step back and be like, I'm working this like it's a dream job that I've wanted my whole life. And I don't like realistically don't even care about it. Why am I doing this to myself? So it's like relearning those priorities in a kind of trial by fire of like this something's not working here, we have to change something.
No, seriously. That emphasis on like, hey, this isn't it. um, we gotta take a was it that 180? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I had to
And
double check with y'all as my English peeps.
that's science or something, right? It's
I count right. It's there.
geometry.
I think technically, yeah.
Statistics,
That's what
something. Yeah, it's geometry.
that one.
No, I was just joking. I was just joking. I promise. I know math. Um, but I was gonna talk into like so we talked about career paths a bit too, and in a way we also kind of talked about like burnout and boundaries. I am
Mm.
curious, like, what have you learned so far, like in your adulthood? I'm curious of what what have you learned, but also more specifically, what has surprised you about adulthood?
I think a big thing has been like notice. I think especially because of the age range that we're in, looking
Mm,
around me at like people who are about our age too, and really recognizing like adults are grown up children. So like there's not necessarily like it's obviously there are a lot of like maturing that happens in like your young adulthood, but there's also a lot of it's easy to meet somebody that's like you're technically an adult, but there's still like you have a lot of places you can grow. So there's a lot more of a gray area between like, you know, you're an adult by age, but there's a lot of learning that about like how to be a person almost that I
Mhm.
feel like I was not anticipating.
I,
and a lot of people don't get that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I always like to say that there's a difference between being an adult and a grown up.
Mm.
Ooh.
Because you legally become an adult at 18, but Lord knows you were not grown up.
Mm-mm.
Like, very few people are grown up at 18, and typically it's because they have had to grow up,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
not out of oh, it just happened. So I always say that, and I definitely think that as we are like mid to late 20s, you start to see the distinct difference between those two a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
You have the people who are just adults.
Mhm.
You have the people who are grown-ups. Because like kind of going back to what you said earlier, Kayvana, when you were talking about that, like how people are at different points, like you're like, they're doing all these adult things. I'm like, I think you're doing so many adult things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like,
I'll take
I look
that.
at you and I'm just like, wow, I look at both of you and I'm like, you guys are out there living on your own. You are going to work. You're taking care of all of these things. I'm like, you guys are doing adult things. I'm still very much at home and my mom makes me food. And so there are like little things like that. Like, I think that there are so many adult things, but people have to be grown up about certain things as well. Like, I think that that's a very distinctive thing. Um, And I've come to, like, understand that even more teaching kids because I have those 18-year-olds, and I can promise you I've maybe had 2 of them that I'm like, "Yes, you are grown up."
Oh
Um,
no.
Right? That's the statistics for you. That is not a
mhm,
good
yeah,
percentage.
Yeah.
but, like, I feel like I have discovered that there are so many, like, little tiny things that you have to just be appreciative of, like, little small moments and things like that, that are, like those are the things you hold on to. It's, like, little tiny things rather than, like, these big, huge accomplishments, things like that, like, just like I said before, like, a big thing for me is friends, people, like, I love my people, my family, my friends, and things like that, but you just don't get to see them. Like, you just don't even if you live in the same place, it's so hard. And so any kind of moment, even just grabbing coffee with a person or even just like an occasional text with someone that you don't text all the time, for me, I'm like, those are like the biggest things. And just like little tiny ones. I know that's not huge on like identity and things like that, but for me, I'm like, that's the stuff that I need. And I've learned that that's what I need.
Yeah. No, I actually think it is because it's like it's figuring out how to be it was kind of like what we talked about a bit earlier, Nicole, of like how to be okay for the now or okay for like
Mhm,
we tend to forget sometimes of our accomplishments, even how small they are. And that is a part of our identity. Like, hey, don't forget about that. Like you did
mhm,
that, you know what I'm saying? Um, that is a part of that. Identity being like all of those layers also come in regards to like confidence and things, like being confident in where you are in this time and moment and but being confident of what your plans are for the future, et cetera, and being confident that you're going to achieve those things. So no, that definitely makes sense. And also too, in regards to just like living situations, that's also very true. I think I became okay with that too though, because life is freaking hard. Life is expensive.
mhm.
I actually like think you're doing like a very smart move on your end,
Yeah,
to be
seriously.
quite honest with you, because the way that rent money falls out of my
Oh,
bank account so quick.
oh yeah.
Do you know how much money I would have in my pocket if I did not pay for rent? So I definitely think that, like we talked about, you gotta have to choose. Like
Mhm,
there's things. What do you want? Okay, do you want
Mhm.
this or do you want that? Because you can't have both. You know what I'm saying? So
yep,
there's a take and a give everywhere, and I think that was something I had to learn a bit more of.
Mhm.
Is like you really have to choose in
yeah.
a lot of scenarios, not just career, like literally all of the above, and they're not easy decisions at all.
Yeah.
Life be life in sometimes.
Yep. I was
um
also very
oh
struck
yeah, go ahead.
by sorry, I was very noticing a lot recently of like those little choices every day that is your life, if that makes sense. Like I feel like especially being a teenager then in college, I'm like, oh, but after this then life starts. And then it was like, okay, I got here and like these things of like when does like recognizing that life is all those little things every day that you
Mhm,
like what you choose to spend your time on, whether you're gonna spend that hour doing this hobby or that hobby, like
Yeah.
those sort of things like shape the trajectory of your life more so than those, like Sabrina was saying, like big wins or big goals that you're trying to set in the fantasy version of the future.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah. Um, I did want to ask, we kind of talked about it, we kind of dipped into it. What do you feel like you're still figuring out though? Like, I know there's a list. That's why I waited to leave
Mm-hmm.
this one for this section. I mean, if you want, I can start first to let you start thinking about some things.
Mm-hmm.
Finances. Finances, immediately finances. I think one, I think I'm still always figuring out taxes. Every new year is a different situation. I started doing TikTok and stuff like that. That's not a
Ugh.
clear guideline. So this past
mhm,
year I was like, did I do right? Don't arrest me. Like, you know, that the whole like savings accounts, high yield savings and all that stuff like that. The tricks of the book that all the rich people do. Like how do you
mhm,
what is what is it what's happening here? You know, we've talked about it. Like oh my gosh, when you're buying stock and things like that, like
Mhm.
what are really the best ways, or like what are the ways that the people who have the money actually are doing well at, and what are the ways you tell people just so they're making bad decisions and stay poor. Like, because that also exists in this country. That finances. I think I'm figuring out proper balance of like, okay, girl, romanticize your life, but maybe like keep yourself in check a little bit,
Mhm.
um, I think I'm trying to reel it back in. I think I aimed at a point where I was like, I literally don't care. And I think that was like, it was a pessimistic side where I was just like, life sucks in a general, like, of course, going back to, hey,
Yes.
girl, you're doing good. But like, I
Yeah.
was like, life sucks. Country's not doing great. I'm just about to, get what I want and do what I want and all that stuff
Mhm.
like that. But it's like, hey, maybe there could be better decisions, just for the, you know, even for the near future. You don't have to think too far ahead. Um, and then what I'm still figuring out, I think also just like being an adult and being like a social adult. College
Mhm.
was way easier, as you said. Like it's staying on top of your friendships and staying on top of your like just relationships overall is like not an easy thing. That's one. I remember watching something Rhett and Link, and Link was talking about how they were obviously like it's Rhett and Link, so they were like goofing off.
Yeah.
But Link was saying um how he has friends, but there's friends he hasn't talked to in like 2 years. He's like he was talking about how he has to like layer friends and put them in rankings. He low key does that because it's like there's you're not gonna be able to catch up with every single person that you like truly connect with every single week or every single month. There are gonna be those friends that kind of are distant, but that doesn't mean anything necessarily different. And so that's another thing of just like, making sure at least people know that hey, just because we don't talk all the time doesn't mean that I'm not cool with you or whatever. Being more intentional with my words because it was more so I wasn't speaking.
Mhm.
So that's just a difference, and it was because it was not because I was intentionally not speaking.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would say those are some things. Figuring out where the heck I'm doing with my life, I have no idea. I'm just rolling along.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, I had a dream my life would be like this.
Oh my god.
um,
So
I
true.
had this idea of like dance being this like big thing. And even along this time of all these years, I was like, I'm not giving up on it. I'm gonna keep trying it. I'm still doing it.
Mhm.
But I think I'm in this period of my life now where I'm like, girl, is it really gonna be a thing or do you need to just pivot? Like, is it going to be that main thing or is that just something that is going to be on the side? So what is your general main goal now? Like, and I've
Mhm.
talked to somebody else and he did the same thing, and he's like, yeah, I put dance to the side and I'm focusing on this creative outlet instead. And I think that's something I have not dug deep into because that's scary. We haven't gotten there
Oh
yet.
yeah. Mhm.
To decide like this is something I freaking made a choice on. And I'm like, ooh, it's not working out. Do I just switch? And I think that's always been one of my fears is when I've talked to people, they'll be like, "Oh, I used to be a dancer." I don't want to used to be a dancer. I want to
Mhm.
always be a dancer in some capacity, and that's kind of hard to figure out because dance is hard. It's a very large field with very little opportunity when you
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's where I'm at in a general. There's more. The list could go on, but yeah. What about y'all?
Creatively, I really feel that as well because I kind of it's a little bit of a different thing because of very different medium for like creative writing, which is like my
Mhm,
thing. And when I was like graduating college, my like first career goal was something in publishing and editing in something in that realm. And the realities of that industry, kind of learning about that, I ended up having to kind of pivot that dream. But kind of like with the other pivots I've had to make, I think, well, I'm trying to think of them positively of like, it's different opportunities and like a chance to kind of reprioritize. So I feel like I learned a lot about myself and like what I wanted more in that, where, you know, being able to say like I don't need to have necessarily traditional publishing goals that are, the standard, what you should be looking towards. I can just enjoy writing for writing and call myself a writer, call myself an author, you know, because that is what I am. That's what I do. I don't need to. I can worry about that published part later.
Mhm.
I and being able to connect with that like love of the act of doing it has really helped me, and it would only happen because of that like forced pivot essentially. So trying to turn a lot of those things that were very stressful at the time of like, oh no, like having to let go of a dream is how it feels at the beginning, but it's like, well, it's the opportunity to kind of explore new dreams is the way I'm trying to think of it, and be more realistic about priorities as well.
Yeah. I like that perspective.
Yeah, easier said than done. We're working on
Yes.
Always,
For
always,
sure.
always. Um, a lot of mine are like personal, social ones. So piggybacking off of what you said, Kaylana, I have discovered that I am a person who draws it back in. Like I always knew that that's what I did in times of like crisis, like when like relatives passed away and things like that. I was very much like I need time to myself to process things, and then I will become someone who is available once again, or who reaches out and says, hey, I'm having a hard time. But like I've realized, especially in these last 2 years, that I draw back in on myself when I am overwhelmed or when I do have a lot going on in order to preserve my energy, and that doesn't translate well to sustaining friendships and sustaining these things. And I'm so grateful to have so many friends who are the same, in the sense of like, hey, I don't need to talk to you all the time, but I know that you're there. So in the next few years, I want to figure out a better way to balance that, and to be like, I'm here. I promise I'm not going to disappear again, and be more intentional with that. And then also just like, what are the things that I want? Who am I outside of like my career? Who am I in all of this? With our bingos that we did this year, I've been spending more time with just myself because I'm not a person who's very comfortable just on my own. Like I've never been. So like I have my solo date for July planned on Wednesday, and it's going to be a picnic, and it's going to be the closest thing to like outdoor by myself that I've done in a
Mhm.
very long time, because even all of the other things that I've done, it's like a movie and it's solitary, or it's like in a public place like it's Disneyland. And so there are still tons of people, tons of interaction. A picnic is very much just me with myself for this time. Eventually, well, my big goal is to be able to go eat a meal in a restaurant by myself, which I can't do. And
One day, one day.
like being more comfortable with me and myself by myself is a big thing. And I have career and location decisions to make, and I feel like the clock is ticking on that, because I do really genuinely need to make those in the next year or two. uh, and so those are there, but those can get pushed for just a tiny bit more.
Mhm.
um, but it's just a lot of like, who am I and what do I want
Mm,
outside of career.
Yeah,
100%.
that is true though. It's like, hey, let's have a chat with ourselves.
I was gonna say like really the developing a relationship with yourself is, and recognizing that that is something significant is has
Mhm.
been a big thing.
Scary boots. I'm not even gonna
Yeah,
hold you. It is scary boots. It's
because
also a little draining to always have to make a decision. Like,
yeah, sometimes you're
Sometimes.
like, I have to be the grown up. What?
yeah.
Listen,
I'm
I
tired of
had
this,
this
grandpa.
conversation. Yes, see, that's what I was gonna say. You made a TikTok about this, I think.
Yeah.
And you were like, I say this at least once a week. Me
Mhm.
too. I'm tired of this, grandpa. It leaves my mouth at least
Seriously.
2 times a week because I'm tired.
Yeah.
Seriously. Do you
So
tell
tired.
yourself also the other? Because I'll be like, I'm
It's
tired of
too
this,
dang
grandpa. Yep.
bad.
Be
Yep,
like, girl, go ahead and get up. You
absolutely.
gotta get to work. Yep.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's 100%. But like, uh, it's just, and that's why, like, I'll come home sometimes and people want me to decide things. I'm like, I know all my decisions are made. I need you to tell me, and I'll say yes or no. But if you need me to
Mhm.
come up with something, the brain is done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The brain is
Especially
done.
as a
That's
teacher.
when we hang out. I don't. I'm like, you guys can figure it out. I'm gonna just sit here. I don't want to talk to the waiter. No, thank you. I will if I have to.
Yeah.
I don't want to, please.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's, I think all of us who are, because we're all very similar in that regard,
Mhm.
I think we run into this issue of like, it's not indecisiveness. It's a, burnout. Like, I'm tired of deciding.
Yeah.
I'm
Hmm.
tired of having to decide. I'd rather just like be provided an option and say yes or no
Yeah.
rather than create an option.
Hmm. No, that is very true though. Yeah. I wanted to
Hard.
dig a little deep here just because it was mentioned, but I feel like in our 20s, this is such a constant conversation in regards to the current dating life. I know, so fun. Do you see yourself like with this dating app era? Do you see yourself hopping on a dating app and be like, I'm gonna try and grab love? I know I said like that, but um, yeah, it's an interesting period. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying not to say men are trash, but men be trash. Um, and it's hard to find especially when you're so comfortable with yourself. It makes it real difficult because I'm not settling. I'm not settling whatsoever. And I think because that is energy in itself, those are decision makings that need to happen in itself, being intentional to try to date. I'm just like, I don't even want to try right now. Maybe my mind will change because I think 2 years ago, I was like, let's try. And then I was on the apps and I said, absolutely not. And then now I'm here and I'm just like, I'm vibing. Like, I don't even want to talk, talking to new people and all this other stuff. I'm like, I'm okay. That's where I will say I'm still waiting for that like unrealistic rom-com movie moment or like the TV show moments that we grew up with on like Disney Channel where you randomly stumble upon the love of your life.
Your meet cute.
Yeah, your meet
Yeah.
cute. I think that's what's going to have to happen. I think I'm standing by that. I think it's going to have to be an accident.
Mhm. Well,
So,
isn't
yeah.
that always an important character trait of the main character of a rom com? Is like, jaded and love's gonna have to come find me, and then it does.
That's one
And
of
it
the
does.
genres. It's one
That
of the
is
Especially,
true.
not genres. It's one of the tropes.
One of the
yeah.
tropes, yeah. I am a fan of those ones too. I'm like, yes, a girly who's independent and on her own. And then I'm like, okay, you're in love. Let me read.
Yep,
So, no,
exactly.
yeah. I will. Maybe we'll see. They're gonna have to be really. They're gonna have to be the best person I've ever met in my life. I'm
It
not
will be.
hold you.
You're manifesting it. Don't worry about
Yeah, because one ick, you're
That's not
gone.
how it works.
You're gone.
that.
It's not how it works.
It's so funny.
What about y'all?
Well, I'll say for me, I feel like it's a bit of a different situation.
Mhm, it's
I
true.
because it's like I'm not just stuck with the men on the apps. But also at the same time, I'm kind of with you where like that doesn't really interest me. I'm not really one of the. I've never been one of those people that's like planned my life around assuming to have a partner one day, and it's just never been something that like I've definitely met people where like you can tell that like they have a craving for a life partner, and I've
Mm,
just never been in that. That's never been in my like. I really feel a need for that, so I'm kind of with you where I'm like open to it, but I'm not actively pursuing anything. I think again because of what we talked about of like priorities of like trying to figure out right now, and then later I'll figure out later.
yeah. I want to hop in real quick before I go to Sabrina. 100% agree. I also, I mean, y'all know this too, but just to clear too, I also realize I do not prioritize like this whole idea of relationships. I think there was a point probably when I was in my teens where I was like, oh, teenage romance or like a teenage boyfriend or college love or whatever like that. And then as I got older, I was like, you kind of in a way like I don't really need that. I was like, and then I started to discover that sometimes those people who are in those relationships are settling heavily, you know what I'm saying, and
Mhm.
they don't last and things like that, especially in high school. Like, come on now, let's be
Oh,
like,
Yeah.
yes.
so like I realized as I got older, it was like my worth is not like equated in any way or whatever to me having a person next to me,
Mhm.
in a relationship. And y'all already know, but just in case I've never said this on my podcast, I have no intentions of ever being married. I'm definitely pulling a Oprah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Ooh.
but maybe someone will surprise me. I don't know. Maybe I'll get a little bling bling on my finger. I don't know, but like I doubt it because I also don't want children. But that's just me.
Mhm.
What about you, Sabrina?
Um, I think like I've had just such an evolution of all of these things because, like Nicole, I was one of those people. I did like, well, not necessarily like, it was more of a just like I wanted to experience it. Like I still would love to experience it. There are still days where like my sister says I have given up and that I'm too young to have given up, but that sometimes it feels like that because I am still very much like a okay, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen now. And if you had asked me that like 4-ish years ago, that would have been a very different situation. I think it's very telling that like in my year bingos, at one point it was like go on a date, go on 2 dates. That hasn't been on my bingo the last 2 years. It's nowhere on the bingo. It's not there. It's not a priority. It's something that I have discovered gives me too much anxiety, takes up too much of my time. I'm not willing to give up like my own. And so I've done the apps. I think I'm probably the one out of the three of us who's done the apps the most, or
I
at
would
least
agree.
like gone on a few more of the dates from the apps kind of
Mhm.
thing.
For
But
sure.
I don't want to go back to the apps. That's like, if I do, it's because they introduced like a brand new concept and I'm going to be like, all right, sure, why not? Um, by the way, they are launching a Disney one called Single Riders. It's not
That's
just Disney, it's for like
funny.
amusement park
Hilarious.
people. Um, it's a
What?
great name. That's one where I'm like, I'll keep an eye on like what people say about this one because this could be real funny. This could be real funny.
Oh
Mhm.
my
Would
goodness.
you do a banter sort of situation?
Uh,
No,
Or
I just it's so tiring. And it's so that I think is where you run into the idea of like, wow, this sucks. Like, wow, this sucks. I've come to the conclusion that it's got to be like people introducing me to someone. That's like, if it's going to happen, that's what it's going to be. Or me, by some miracle, having that situation of like running into someone and something just clicking.
mhm,
I've had it happen. Like, I've had little tiny like moments of like, ooh, this clicked. Just like never went anywhere. But it's been an evolution of, I want this, I want that, to I really like to, but I'm not defined by it. Like
Mhm.
I have the conversation a lot and people will look at me sometimes and be like, that's interesting when I say I want to be a mom more than I want to be a partner, more than I want to be a wife. Because for
Mhm.
me it would be marriage. For me it
mhm.
is not a
Mhm.
the goal if I had a long-term partner would be marriage. It's
Mhm.
not living like this. That comes from the Hispanic Catholic in me. Um, but and also from the fact that like I need to hear it and I need some sort of like concrete thing of like,
Yeah.
I want to spend the rest of my life with you.
Mhm.
And that's not something I need anymore. It'd be really nice. It'd be great. And that's why my sister says I've given up. And I'm just like, no, listen, from go starting from scratch, starting with a person that you don't really know, starting with a person like random strangers, which is what it sometimes amounts to, what it usually amounts to. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard, hard.
Yeah.
There's
I
so many other things I could be doing.
I was just about to say, I think you just prioritize, you know? Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't really think it's giving up. You know, I really do think it's like, here's where I am in my life. Here's what I know I need to figure out for myself. And
Hmm.
sometimes you kind of need that clarity before you even have another person come in. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I don't know. I'm voting for Cassandra is wrong. um and let them know I said
I,
that.
I don't
But no, yeah, I really do think it's just a prioritization thing. I think, I think there is a point where I was just like, I don't want to be in a constant there, especially when I was on the dating apps for a minute. I don't want to be in a constant chase of trying to find someone. Now I'm wasting time. In a way, it was like wasting time trying to look for someone on a dating app, and instead I could be focusing on other things for me,
hmm
you know. And because I'd be like, dang, I'm over here swiping and trying to find somebody. It's been like maybe what, like an hour. I'm like, okay, and that this isn't going anywhere. You know, it just felt like I'd rather. I really do think, especially I love like a good, genuine, authentic like connection. Like I'd rather it just happen naturally at some point. Um, I don't know. I doubt someone would set me up on a date though, and I say that because I'm the problem. I'd be like, don't do that.
Is this a PSA? Do not set
Do
Kim
not set
up
me up on
on
a
a
date.
date. Damn.
Don't even try to be like, hey, this is, and you invited me to somewhere.
But here's the thing.
It would
Like
be
I feel like
Sabrina.
there's
It would be Sabrina.
hey.
Whoa, give
I
me
feel
some credit.
like I feel like if Nicole or I, because we spend so much time talking to you, and because we've had some, if one of us was like, listen, hear me out. There is this person, and it could go somewhere. It could not. I feel like you need to trust us enough to know, like, it's not a complete waste of time. Not a guarantee, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't be like a complete waste of time of like, who is this person? And if it was, then we need to reevaluate our friendship.
Oh.
Because then I found someone
Yeah.
who is not appropriate.
Yeah,
for
then
it.
we failed
It
you.
was reading.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, and then that's why I'm like, I'm not about to go on a date with like any of my friends. I have some friends where I'm gonna be like, no.
Yeah.
Whoever you are sending to me, not that I don't love you, but no, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like,
yeah, the right
also
person.
one ick cannot seal
Listen,
the cock.
you know me. You know me. I run a tight ship over here.
You do. You really do.
I really do. I saw a man digging his nose today.
Well, consider this. Maybe you can fix him. Not him, but
extra grody. But it was so funny because he literally was in the streets of New York City. He picked out his nose. He looked at it.
Don't tell me he ate it.
He
Don't tell me he
licked
ate
it. And looked at his finger again. And then kept it pushing. And I said, men. What I was gonna say was, also too, a lot of people are the way that we grew up in this like dating age too. A lot of people aren't looking for those like committed relationships, and that's something else that would be a whole other episode about. But that's just why it's just like I know I've I was gonna say I've romanticized it, but I think that's legit. That's a fair thing of wanting like a proper like relationship. Even though I probably did have influence of like growing up watching like Disney Channel moments or cutesy movies, rom coms, and things like that. It's like no, but that's what I want. It's like I don't want the general of what the 20s is kind of looking like these days. And I think that's why I'm kind of picky with who I share my space with too. So you would have to convince me if you ever did find someone.
Oh,
But
yes.
I'm not saying it's a no, but I'm saying you're gonna have to convince me hard.
Yeah,
even you two still.
I know this. But you were like saying it like a no, and I'm like, listen, I think
if anyone, it would be Sabrina.
Right? Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, I think part of what makes it so hard is that when we were kind of connecting to what we were talking about earlier about like being adult versus grown up, like
yes,
especially. Well, I think we're all pretty mature even for like being in our late 20s now approaching. So I think it's especially hard because it's like I would like to date a grown up. I don't want to be teaching anybody how to like be a person if they're my partner.
Yeah.
So that's also what's hard because most people like in my age, like in my life stage, I'm like y'all need to grow up a little bit still.
Yeah, 100%. I did want to move into unexpected wins. My question is, we talked about all this stuff, how life can be kind of but what about the good parts? What about your life now would have shocked 18-year-old you in the best way? To kind of bring us into like a good note before I drop those rapid fires on you.
God. One of my big ones, and it's something where it's like the good part of like what Nicole said earlier of how like adults are just big kids. I got a Disney pass, and I had a Disney pass, and for little baby me, I think I may have talked about this like before, like just that was huge. Oh, and God, I miss it. I miss it so much, but it was an adult decision because I'm trying to like make money moves out here to not have it another year.
Yeah.
But like that was something where I was like, that's how I know I made it. I made it. I will need to have it for at least a year. And I had it for 2. And it was so nice and it was so wonderful. And that's one where I, at this age, like to have had it, to have bought it at, I think it was 22, 23. No, 23, 24. Yeah. Like, I think I would have just been like, there's no way. There's no way you did that. That's like a big one. That's like just like a for funds for me. And then I, again, bringing it back, and it's something I talk about all the time, but like, and this is how you know that I'm legit. And when I say that my like job is consuming, but like to see those kids, I have had like so many of them where I genuinely cannot express how proud I am. And I don't have anything to do with it. Like really, I just get to the privilege of like getting to see them grow and getting to see them become these little baby adults who then will go out and do who knows what, who knows. But it was something that I wasn't expecting. It was something that I didn't realize like just how deeply connected um like I would be to like some of these students who are just like figuring out who they are and just going and just being like, look at this. Um so those are two. Those are two that I jotted down. Those are like the first two bullet points I had.
No, that's cool though. I don't know if you've considered this, but when they get older, they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I remember I had this teacher."
No, because that'll make me cry.
Well, I mean, that's the thing though, especially high school. Though, you got hopefully all the high school teachers are the cool ones, because those are the people when they get older, when they look back and they're like, "Yeah, I love that teacher. They made such an impact on my life." Da, da, da. Think about that now, like my calculus teacher, Miss Willard, or my gov teacher, Miss Mladnich, like dope,
Hmm.
Um, didn't want to be in chemistry honors, ended up in there, but Miss Brown, she was fire. Like she made me love it, even though it stressed me out, made me cry sometimes just because it was a hard, topic. So just no, you are making an impact that is really cool. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
What about you,
Uh,
Nicole?
um, two main things are coming to mind. They're kind of related, so I'll go broad first, I think. Is especially recently, like in the last year, even the last couple months, just being able to recognize certain areas of like progress of like I've been recognizing especially like my resilience and my ability to grow. Like I think I really was able to embrace a growth mindset even with all the like struggles and twists and turns of life. So like it's as it's nice to kind of put that silver lining in a lot of things of like I can do hard things. I can
Mhm.
struggle and grow, whereas there are plenty of times when I see people like re- not being able to even start growing on something because they're not ready yet. So it's being proud of myself and recognizing those things of like, yeah, you don't stop growing the minute you turn 18. There's a lot of growing up to do, and the like doing that exercise of like, what would me a year ago think about where I am now, and a year before that, and a year before that, and those sort of things, especially with creative stuff, with writing, to be able to say like, oh, I did a first draft of a book in 2020, and then the amount of growth that has taken, the trajectory of that, to be able to see like, wow, I've learned how to write many times through this process of writing. So, um, and having these like things to be like, hey, I did that,
Mhm.
um, has been really nice. Of like, and that it proved to me that like I can get a finished product and then I can refine it and like it can
Yeah.
keep growing from there. It's not even just like a one and done sort of situation, which is so wild that there to think that there were times in my life that I was like, yeah, I just write the book and then throw it away, right? I don't do anything from there, huh? Just do the next one. So that sort of creative growth has been really wild to look back on. And like, yeah, being able to embrace things not as roadblocks so much as challenges for growth.
I
Sometimes
like
easier
that.
said than done, but
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in regards to like accepting it, like
Mhm.
no,
Well,
I like that. I like that a
it's
lot.
it's such a hard mindset to like actually enter. And so
Mhm.
that's super cool.
yeah.
Seriously, yeah. Like trust, yeah.
This big
No,
sigh. But also it's
yeah.
been I also this small wins of like we were talking about social connections and stuff like that. also being able to recognize how much different people in my life have really helped with those things, whether it's like the personal growth or like, I've gotten so much support and love from my creative friends and in these projects that has really helped it grow from there. So it's nice to be like, oh yeah, it, but I've had people in my corner for years at this point. It is wild now that it has become years.
No, that's super true. In a similar connection, I think while there has been no growth professionally in my dance career, I have definitely like found a dance home, which is like super important. Me dancing at Ailey Extension has provided me more opportunities than I had, dancing anywhere else. But also like meeting really cool people, genuine people, people who have experienced life in so many different formats and so many different ages, and us all kind of coming together. I think 18-year-old me would have been a bit shook. One, I think, like I said earlier, living in New York as early for me as I did, I didn't think it would happen probably till I was like 30, to be quite honest. And living by myself, I was strict. When I tell you I have a goal and I really try to stick to it, I was like, I do not want roommates. And I stuck to that goal heavy just because I'm an introvert. I like to have my alone space.
Mhm.
If I can't do dishes, I don't want to feel the stress. It's not even the fact that, oh, someone's going to look at the dishes and ask me to do the dishes. I'm going to feel stressed out about someone looks like being wondering about I have dishes in the sink and that, but I'm also kind of
Yeah.
busy, so I can't. There's layers to that. I don't want that extra like I didn't want that extra layer. So living in New York City, but also not having to live with someone else. On top of that, finding a dance community, but specifically finding a dance community within Ailey is a big deal. I saw them for my first time, I think, when I was like 16, when they toured and was at Berkeley. And fun fact about that, who I'm working with now under Mr. Matthew Rushing through Sacred Songs for Ailey Extension when we did it last year at the Whitney. When I saw that show, I think once again when I was 16, that was one of the pieces I saw was, of course, like everybody talked about Revelations and stuff, but he did his piece Odetta. And I was like, so I've seen his work, one of
Mhm.
like his bigger works, and then now I also get to like work with him. But then I remember like seeing Ailey perform on stage, being like, "Oh my gosh, what? They're in New York City? Like that's cool." Like just things like that. Because I think I also let go of some ideas of the concept of specifically dancing with the Ailey Dance Company, and that's a whole other conversation of like what dancers are expected to look like. That is something, but then also what they are expected to achieve with their bodies that may not be, always the most possible. Um,
Mhm.
so I think that how I found it and how I've made things happen was in my own way, and I'm proud of that because it wasn't expected necessarily, but I made it happen. Like, did I think I'd be
Yeah.
a teacher moving here? No, I wouldn't take it back for anything. It was an incredibly stressful time period. Um, because of how I became a teacher and what environment I became a teacher in. But like it really did like kind of make me a bit stronger in places, I learned from stuff and I'm able to go into it. And I think I also am proud of the fact that I've got a little bit more backbone in me. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So there was a period where I was a little not necessarily a pushover, but I just kind of let like swipe things to the side. And now it's like, nah, we got beef. Not necessarily we got beef, but like I don't mess with you kind of thing. And
Mhm.
I've probably harshened a little too much, but that's just the whole that's something to figure out down the line. We're always a constant work in
Yeah.
progress.
That's
But
next season's character
right,
arc.
exactly. Catch it on season 4. I don't know what season I'm on, but yeah, like
Season
um
26, almost 20,
20 I guess
27.
yeah, I guess dang, season by year. But yeah, I think that's where I'm at. I definitely know more of what I want and I jump for those goals and I'm not afraid to try and do things. And I think last year was the big if you would have asked me 2 years ago if I was quitting a job with no backup plan and not enough coin in my bank account, listen. And I know for a fact, let me tell you this right now. Somebody could help me maybe, but my family don't got money like that. I was really out here
Mhm.
trying my best. So they were like, okay, well, if you're going to do that, then okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm going
Yeah.
to do it. I'm going to figure it out. I don't need your help. I'm good.
Yeah.
It's going to work out. And that's kind of what I went off of. But I think 2 year ago, me would have been like, what? 18-year-old me would have been like, girl, Like, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
definitely. But before we wrap up, I want to do rapid fire questions. And we got to keep them rapid fire because we're already past time.
Ah.
E.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to ask them. You're gonna
Okay.
choose, okay?
Okay.
I'm right.
A grown-up chore that you still hate.
Laundry.
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 Laundry as well.
Folding laundry.
Yes. One thing you let go of and don't miss. I would say I let go of trying to appease people, even in situations where it was their fault and I was trying not to cause extra issue. Now it's like, no, we about to talk about this kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say certain relationships with people that it was like, why am I trying to impress you and be somebody that you like when I don't value your opinion?
Yeah. T. Yeah.
Yeah. Something kind of in between letting go, like the constant like echo of like, what are people going to think of this decision? And
Mhm.
just kind of being like, well, this is my decision. So
Yeah. More so focus on ourselves and taking care of ourselves. I like that. The Your most unhinged but necessary 20s purchase. It's unhinged and it's not necessary, but it's necessary for my happiness. My Disney castle, Lego Disney castle, YOLO. I said it. Most unhinged but necessary.
I feel like I'm so boring. I am still in that, like,
Mhm.
you know, how about a million journals that every time I'm like, I'm gonna use this one, and I use a little
oh,
bit of it,
Yes,
and there's a stack this big on my shelf.
for sure. Z's.
They're
I,
necessary though.
necessary to keep your mind clear. You just didn't know how many you'd have.
Yeah, it's just it's fine.
mine was my Disney pass. That's the most unnecessary thing and biggest purchase that I was like, I don't need this, but I need this.
Yeah.
Right. Pure joy. No, I like
I
that.
don't have it currently, and I'm like, I need it.
Listen, you and Daniel might convince me, but I gotta look once again.
God,
Finances. I'm trying to lock in on my finances because
this
I
is
gotta think
why I
about
no
that.
longer has it.
Yeah. If your 20s had a theme song right now, what would it be? And even if you don't have an actual theme song, if you just want to give a sentence, you could give a sentence as well. I'm gonna say just vibes. That's what's happening right now. At least it wasn't just vibes a while ago, but I think that's where I'm at.
It's it's maybe like a little cringy or like very basic, but I would say the Friends theme song. Especially
Ah,
because someone just reminded me recently that we are at the age that they start. Like
yes.
Rachel and Monica are our age at the
That's
beginning of the
so
show.
Hmm.
wild.
And
Yes. 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 Yes.
so like the others are a little bit older. They are
Mm.
like late 20s and 30. I think Ross or Phoebe's the no, because they turned 30 in the show. So like they're our age. So yeah, that one, especially because it's just kind of like life can be all of these things
Yeah.
and it's okay. And then also the clapping. I love
Yeah.
it.
I think just the so no one told you life was gonna be this way.
That
Is
literally
enough.
just that line
Hmm.
Yeah.
alone.
I'm gonna add
Oh.
on real quick before. I'll say the Living Single theme song in similarity. Then actually, that makes
Oh,
sense. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. What about you, Nicole?
I don't know. I guess the the first song that came to mind, which was more of like ironic and timeless, is "I'm Just a Kid and Life Is a Nightmare" by is Simple Plan, Never Ending.
Solid.
And then I was
Mhm.
thinking "Bowling for Soup," High School Never Ends, because of that like adults are just grown up
Mm,
children thing. Where it's like,
yes,
yeah, people's is the same.
for sure. Z's. I like that. They had a solid TikTok trend with that. I'm
Oh,
They
just a
did.
kid and life is a nightmare. Yeah, it was a good
oh my
TikTok trend.
gosh! To
Hmm.
know that the youth these days would call that TikTok music is so wild to me.
I know. They all go
The
through
youth
things.
the other day asked if Harry Styles was in One Direction. We're like, oh my God, I didn't know he was in One Direction. This is what the youth are asking.
That wasn't even that long ago. That's wild.
They don't know their
This is
history.
must how they felt when we were
15
growing
years
up.
ago, as of a few days ago, 15 years ago is when they debuted. When they first,
15?
15 years.
Before these children were
Really?
born.
I was 11.
Wow. Wow, Zers. You're so right though. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Last question. A piece of advice you heard in your 20s that actually sucked. Um, I've never got this directly, but I've heard people being like, there's some kind of idea of compromise in relationships, but some people will be like compromise in the sense of like giving up yourself for another person or just to have a person with you versus trying to find the right person. I've heard that before, and I think that's actually the worst thing you could ever tell somebody. is to just, oh, if they're not what you want, it's okay because you don't want to be by yourself. So like be with them. It's like, no, that's bad. That's bad advice. I heard
Yeah.
that recently on TikTok and I was like, that's not, why are you on my page?
Oh man. Um, very pessimistic, but I feel like the like work hard and be humble kind of sentiment when it comes to like work stuff, career stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you have to advocate for yourself like all the time. And even when you do, the wrong place is still going to be like, well, anyway.
Yep.
Oh man. Yes. Not caring or being mad that you're advocating for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Horrible.
taking it personal when it's like, I know you have no loyalty to me. Why are you acting betrayed that I'm not
Mm-hmm.
loyal to you?
Yeah. 100%.
Um, Mine is the age old, but one that I get so often. Like, it's okay. The moment you stop looking, it'll show up for you. But when it comes to love
Mm-hmm.
in particular, that's one I know a lot of people complain about. But I have only just gotten a lot of my family to understand that, because that was always told to me like, oh, it's okay, you're going to get this next degree once you have your job, once you have this, and you're not, it'll come to you and then everything will be good. And I'm like, what about all the other stuff that I've got? Or like, you don't want to look too hard and it'll pop up. And I'm just like, listen, I don't need you to keep telling me these things. I need
Yeah.
you to just kind of be like, okay, this is it.
Yeah, be on the side. No, that makes sense. Those are some good ones. Yeah. So many bad work culture ones. Side note that
Oh yeah.
that that could be a
We
whole entire
just,
conversation. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think we were set up. I know we were set up.
we were
It's just the
I,
whole entire landscape changed.
Hmm.
I saw TikTok literally a few days ago that was talking about how in order, like, the equivalent of a minimum wage, like a livable minimum wage today would be, we would need to be making $66 as minimum wage in order
Hmm.
to like equal what the 70s were.
A mess. It's a
Yeah.
mess. People are
I
Yeah.
buying
guess.
houses for 50K. Remember
Bruh.
this.
That's 1 year of college.
Right.
Yeah.
College does
Because
not pay back.
depending on the college you go to as well.
That too. Yeah.
But yeah.
Whew, man, oh man. But thank y'all for hopping on. What
Thanks
a
for
important
asking me.
conversation. I'm excited to see us possibly do a check-in even when later down the line of the later 20s or even from when oh, we're about to be 30. What's going on? Maybe Sabrina has found the love of her life and maybe
Mhm.
has a kid on the way. You know what I'm saying? Who
Whoa,
you said
whoa.
30, you said 30.
No,
Yeah.
30 is where like that's where that like starts. That's where that like starts. I'm
You
still
scared her.
baby.
I know. I jump scared her so hard just now.
No. You'll be newly married. You'll have just
Yes.
adopted your first fur baby.
Okay.
Yes, yes. We
I would like to be a homeowner. That's
Mm.
like the next.
yes.
It's
I,
like,
s- I
but
see that
also,
in the near future for you. I do.
Yeah.
I do. Let's hope for that home market crash as
You're
well.
praying on their downfall.
Yeah. We'll do some of our magic. um
because
yeah.
then you can get a loft.
Ah, true. I love a good loft. I love a good loft.
See?
Yeah. Ah, iconic interior design moment there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yes, to the listeners out there, let us know, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts if you're in your 20s right now, whether it's your early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s? What are your thoughts even for us? Do you have any advice for us? Good advice. If you were when you were in your 20s, and what did you learn from it? What are some takeaways? We'd love to hear. Make sure you follow me at the Introvert Social Hour on TikTok, also on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe. You can follow me at Kavana on Instagram. Make sure you're following this podcast to stay up to date on what's going on, and then go ahead and look into the description to see what's going on with Sabrina and Nicole. Super super excited to close out the season next week. So just make sure you're tuned in for next week. We're going to talk about, I'll give you a little note. We're talking about romanticizing. Let's talk about that, romanticizing your life and really recapping in on that. But make sure you get some sunshine, get some air, have an amazing week. And I'll see you next week on the Introvert Social Hour for the finale. Bye.